Hello, my Tyler High Lions. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Miss Muse, and I am going to go through this lesson with you, kind of like what we did at the very beginning of the week, Cultivating Literacy. I wanted to do this not YouTube video. Well, maybe it might turn into a YouTube video, but I wanted to do this video just to kind of go back through it with you. Just a kind of couple of reminders. I know sometimes there's a lot of things that were said we might forget. So I'm going to possibly add some tips. I'll be creating other additional videos for you guys, especially when it comes to elevation, how to actually work through that, how to look up your kids, how to know their scores, all of that fun stuff, all the strategies that we looked at as well, that type of thing. So I appreciate you guys for joining me again. This is our Cultivating Literacy focus. As mentioned before, our TELPAS scores are in. They start off with beginner level, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high. Our scores are, they're each section, each domain gets a score. Listening, speaking, and reading, writing areas. And our motivation for today. I know we saw that we got that 0% in TELPAS, but the best thing about that is, silver lining, is that the only way is up. So, with your help, with it being a complete whole campus effort, I know that we are actually going to be able to make a great impact this year. And so that pumps me up. It definitely fuels the blood inside my veins to make sure that I can support my people, my Lions, and to get us to where we need to be. First of all, let me gather my thoughts. When you are going through these type of prompts, the best piece of advice that I can give you at the beginning is decide when you actually want to give this type of lesson. Is it going to be at the beginning of your lesson? Do you want to use it to see and check where your students are at with this topic? Let's say you are comparing two different items, kind of like what we did at the beginning of the week. We compared those two different balloons. So let's say you want to compare two different topics from last year to kind of get an idea of where they're at. Now, for this activity, that's where internalization comes into play, and deciding whether you want to use it for that reason. You want to have it at the beginning of the lesson, in the middle of your lesson, or to summarize what your students learn and seeing and assessing how much they actually captured for that week, and have that at the end of the lesson. My biggest piece of advice is try to choose 2 to 3 academic words for each week. I know there's a lot of vocabulary. A lot of you guys use glossaries that are like 20, 30 words long and that sort of thing. But again, this part is where internalization comes into play. You guys know what you teach the best. I definitely do not. And think about the STAR test. When it comes to this lesson specifically, what sort of words is it that you need your students to understand? Is it author's purpose? Is it process? Is it synthesize? Those are big words sometimes for our students, especially for English learners and all of our students. And so the question is which of those fancy words, academic words, do you want for your students to focus on, and ensuring that these specific words become part of their repertoire by the end of the week. So it's kind of like with my content, by the end of the week, I want for my students to be able to, first of all, tell me what their name is, ask someone else what their name is, and be able to tell me where they are from. Those are the 3 that I'm going to be focusing in on this week, let's say, for example. So for your content, what do you want for that to look like and sound like more than anything else? Number three, what visuals are you going to use? Visuals, they say, and it's very true in this sort of situation when it comes to cultivating literacy, visuals represent 1,000 words. So, what visuals do you want to use for students to actually make some sort of connection to? The fourth part is choose a prompt. This is where your ELPs come in. How do you want your students to respond and show their understanding? And what I mean by choose prompt, throughout the presentation, just kind of like what I did at the beginning of the week, there are different types of questions. And that's what I mean by choose your prompt. Are you comparing and contrasting? And what is the prompt? What is that prompt going to say? I want for you to be able to list two similarities and two differences, or I want for you to explain the process of Boyle's Law, or I want for you to explain, I'm going to give you the beginning and the middle part of a story, and I want for you to be able to finish that story for me. So that's what I mean by choose prompt. Are they going to, students going to be listening? Are they going to be speaking? Are they going to be reading or writing? The fifth part is build your foursquares. That is truly where that drive for vocabulary comes into play. A lot of our kids, kind of in my experience and what I mentioned when I worked with you guys giving this presentation, is that the kids have actually a lot of vocabulary, but they don't know how to tap into it. They don't realize that, oh, those words that we use in science class, we can actually use it for this prompt. They don't, sometimes they just don't make those connections. And so our jobs in cultivating literacy is to show those cross-curricular words and show them that yes, those words are just as important in that class as they are in this class, and this is where we can actually utilize them. So build your four squares with them. Please have them use their cheat sheet or a type of cheat sheet. Usually what I mean by that is a graphic organizer of any kind, especially where it lays out some of those transitional words. And then finally, the last part, and this is the most important part, and this is the reason why I'm creating this video, because sometimes I forget to say my big pieces to every single class or to every single person in this sort of situation. Model. The first time that you're having your students answer these sort of prompts, model and do a whole group with them. Please model it at least the first three of these type of prompts. Please model with your students at least 3 times, so that way it actually develops a habit out of them, and they now know what your expectation is and what each piece, what build four squares means, right? What, how to actually use the cheat sheet. So it helps them understand what the process and that aspect it looks like. And so that way they will know from there on out. But the first three, please do it as a whole group for sure, and model with them. So, cultivating literacy. As a reminder, non-core teachers, we're going to be assigning these prompts. Two of them, we're gonna push them out at the beginning of the month. We are going to share with you guys what those due dates look like, and give me a second. I'll make sure that you guys know the due dates as far as that is concerned. But we want for students to be practicing. Remember, it's cultivating literacy. We're not calling this Help Pass training or anything like that. We're embedding it into our own content, so that way all students are participating, because it helps all of our kids. Um, okay, I'm gonna go to the next one. Just a friendly reminder on this part. Again, when we're shooting for students to speak and to record, and this also reminds me, Walmart, they have these. I actually ordered another set of headphones. They don't have the microphone, but they're actually really, really, really cheap. Amazon has these as well. I'm going to show them to you super, super fast. But um, they have these colorful, old school classroom headphones. They're like this. I'll show you guys. Amazon has them, Walmart has them. I used them last year. My kids love them. I mean, especially because they can't utilize their beats and their own and all that kind of jazz. This is a really good supplement for that, but especially if they're going to be doing the speaking part and they need to kind of focus for themselves, helps kind of, they're not, soundproof or anything like that, but it helps them focus a little bit so that way they know to focus and to work on their own. But when they are doing those speaking portions, just as a friendly reminder, in Canvas for any non-core, core, or core teachers, when you're actually creating your modules and your assignments, there is that submission type. If you select media, that's where you can find this little record piece. If you want for them to submit their assignment as a speaking response. So again, here is a cheat sheet. We have the link in here for that cheat sheet. All you have to do is click on it and it's going to take you to Google. Here you can customize it in every single way that you would like. For sure, please keep the four squares to kind of help as reminders to the kids. If there are different transitional words that you want for your students to utilize, by all means, just make a copy of this Google form and tweak it as you would like. But this is a big piece of the puzzle as well. You want for students to get used to using this type of resource to kind of help them organize their thoughts, because again, might not have been able to share this with every single person, but on Telpass tests, they do get a blank sheet of paper. It can't be this, but if they have used this cheat sheet multiple times in your classes, notice I said classes, everyone's class, then our students can definitely replicate this, especially the four squares, and they can write down some of those transitional words that they know to use. And so if it becomes a habit in all of our classes, for sure they will know that they can utilize this exact same piece and replicate it on test day. So going through this real quick, the first prompt is a compare and contrast one that students will work on. So think about what you would like for them to compare and contrast. Um, let's see. Here again is that example of the four squares. This is where they're going to be tapping into that cross curricular. What are some academic words that from math, from science, history, and English that they can utilize to answer the prompt? The sequencing, this piece is to help them organize their thoughts. This is kind of a little bit of an exemplar that you can share with them. So this is what it should end up looking. This is whole picture. This is what the expectation is. And remember, the first three, you're actually doing it with them as a whole group, as a whole class. We're all participating. We're all being a part of writing that and answering that first prompt. So you can use the balloons as an example for them. So that way they have an understanding of how to actually complete it, and then maybe do one with two pictures that are relevant to your class. You can definitely do that. I kept this piece. Make sure that there are responses and you set up that expectation that when they submit a speaking piece for you as an assignment, that they speak for 60 seconds at least. And the reason for that is because we're trying to get students comfortable to speak and to record. And so if we all set up that expectation that they have to record for at least 60 seconds, at least that it's continuous like that, then for sure they'll develop that habit and they'll be comfortable, and they will develop that habit and be comfortable, and they will know that, they'll get past that hurdle of being so shy. Can you have some submissions 30 seconds in your classes? Absolutely. Yes. Yes, you may. Although we're shooting for 60, if once in a while you want to do a quick wrap up as an exit ticket, yes, by all means, yes, you may. The other part is making sure that they read the script. When it comes to recording, I've recorded so many videos for professional developments, for this or whatever, and I always mess up. I can't tell you how many times I mess up, and I have to re-record every single thing. And the same works for our students. In Telpass, they only get two opportunities to record. And if they mess up on their first one, they only have that second one left, obviously, but that first one goes away. They can't go back and choose the first one. So that's definitely something to think about, as kind of like to help our kids only have two opportunities, perhaps. So that way they kind of get used to that. But that's where the writing piece comes into play, because if they are already prepared and they already have something to speak with, then they can use that. They can also practice it on their own before they actually hit record. They can practice saying it to themselves before that. So that's possible too. Another um, piece of feedback for our students as they're answering these prompts is to let them know to pay close attention to what the question is actually asking you to do. And that leads me into number 4. I didn't get a chance to say this to anyone, I think, but one of the pieces of feedback that we got about Telpass is that where our students aren't answering the whole prompt. So let's say they only tell us who the story is about, but they don't tell us with detail what they were going to do next, for example. And so we have to ensure that our students are answering the whole prompt, and we just kind of remind them as they're working along. Don't forget, you have to state two similarities and two differences. Talked about the four squares. This is another type of question. You have 4 different pictures. It says, look at the pictures. You will use the pictures to tell a story. Talk about each picture in order and tell as many details as you can. This one, it's view the image. It says, look at the picture and read the question. When you are ready, record your answer below. What do you think the mother and the son are going to do? This gives you an exemplar. And then, of course, we use our sequencing to kind of help us organize our paragraphs. We've already hit this type of question, understanding what similarities and differences are. I'm not sure anyone can actually implement this, but I went ahead and kept it. Students do have to be able to use a map and provide directions. I'm just going to read it for the sake of it, but it says, you and your friend just arrived at the park and your favorite ride is the roller coaster. There are 2 paths you can follow to get to the roller coaster. You choose path number 2. Describe at least 3 rides or park attractions you will pass on your way to the roller coaster when you follow path number 2. So if you guys can tweak it to work with your own content, by all means. I went ahead and broke it down like this, so that way they have plenty of to kind of help them understand the details and how to kind of organize their thoughts when they're answering a type of question like this. My favorite one is explaining a process, and the reason why is because if you see right here, I have a little link for a YouTube video. It's a fun little YouTube video. Some of you guys might have actually seen this YouTube video. We didn't have time for it in our training, but this YouTube video, it's a dad and his 2 kids, and he asked them to make a peanut butter sandwich. But he asked them to write the steps down in the correct order. And so it's funny, it's cute, it's laid back, but it makes the point of how important it is to actually be very careful with what you write, because when someone is actually following your instructions, if they're not correct, then you actually see how you might have thought in your little brain that you had written it correctly, but when someone actually tries to follow it, you realize that you didn't do as a great job as you thought for them to execute that part. So it's a fun, if you're actually trying to explain a process and you're having them try to explain a process to make the point of this, I would share that YouTube video with them. It's fun. This one is listen to the situation, then record your response. This is definitely something that all of us in our own content can utilize. The instructions say, it says, read the instructions below. When you are ready to speak, record your answer and tell as much as you can. You lost a book that you checked out from the school library. Tell the librarian what happened. Apologize. Ask the librarian how to resolve the situation. These are constructed responses. It says, watch the video to help you explain how to answer the questions. This says, look at the pictures, use the pictures to write a story. Your story should have a beginning, middle, or end with about each, write about each picture in order, include as many details as possible. And over here, the question one says, explain what the whole problem was, tell who the people were, what they did and said, and how they felt. Explain how the problem was solved. And so this is a perfect example of reminding our students to make sure they answer the whole prompt. So they might explain what the problem was, but didn't do parts B and C. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to that. See, it's a two-part question. This last one is finish a story. So it says, read the text. It is a beginning of a story. And then it says, and here's the story. I'm not going to read it. But then it says, now write the middle and end of the story. In your middle and end, remember to tell what happened in order and include details about what the characters did and said and how she felt. So again, here's a sequencing part to help them keep their writings organized. Expository writing. Sorry, guys, I thought this was the last one, but it's not. It says, imagine you were given $1 million to donate to charity or organization. You would like to help make this world a better place. Explain what type of charity or organization you would donate the money to. Why you would want to donate the money to help the charity or organization. What the charity or organization could do with your donation and how your donation would make this world a better place. You can even do this as an icebreaker at the beginning of the school year. People in their content, if you guys actually use graphs, a perfect assignment for your students is to describe the graph. What does this graph show? Explain how the graph was probably created. It says, write about what you can conclude from this graph, which is super important. I can definitely imagine for several of our contents. And then it says, write about the place you were born, since the graph has to do with birthplaces. I wanted to point this part out. I didn't get a chance to in the training. This is definitely the writing part. Express ideas in writing and address writing assignments. Use standard grammar, usage, and spelling to edit writing tasks. This is part of ACE. Understand words and language structures, basic understanding of a variety of text written in English, analyze and evaluate information and ideas in a variety of text written in English. So this gives you the maximum points by each area that the students can get from. If you notice here, speaking, I didn't highlight that, I'm sorry. Provide and summarize information, share opinions, and analyze information. So this is how we can get our students to get their points. Again, this is the exemplar that I had shared with you guys. Just again, oh, here are the due dates. So for our non-core teachers, this is the due dates on which those Cultivating Literacy Canvas modules have to be completed. The assignments have to be completed for the students. Please remember, when I push them out, you can alter them to make them fit to your content. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, my room number is A232. I'm all the way up in Mississippi. That's what I tell my kids. I'm more than happy to help you. I don't remember my extension, but just email me. My name is Jedwiga Muse. Mews is my last name. And I am absolutely excited to work with each of you. And I hope and wish you guys a great and fabulous year this year. Thank you.